There's a lot to get here to, including the government shutdown farce, which we will get to, including the murders that took place in suburban Manchester, England. But before we do, I've been noticing something that I want to bring to your attention. You know, folks, when you read Karl Marx or you read some of the others of his ilk, Rousseau or Hegel, but don't worry about that. I'm just saying when you read them, they act like they're starting the world all over again. That whatever came before is bad and whatever came before is irrelevant. There's nothing to learn from it. When you watch the Marxists and the Islamists in the streets, they don't even know history. They don't even know American history. They don't care. They're hardcore ideologues. The world begins today. You could be a 33-year-old Marxist, Islamist, Jew hater, American hater who's running for mayor. He knows everything. Everything. It could be a TV host or even a radio host. They spend more time on the internet, more time talking in their own little circle than they do actually informing and educating themselves. But I've noticed this problem is not just on the radical left. I'm seeing this problem among podcasters, TV hosts, and some radio hosts. They believe the world begins with them, and the world begins today. That they're the only ones who figured out that the left is bad and how to fight the left. Now, this is really asinine. We stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us. All of a sudden, our history is wiped out, including the history of the conservative movement. Let me tell you a little story. Let me tell you why some of our conservative forefathers are a lot braver, a lot smarter, than some who beat their chests and pat the back of their heads today on TV and radio. Most of you have heard of William F. Buckley Jr. He was eccentric. He was an intellectual, a scholar. He had his little facial tics and so forth. But he founded modern-day conservatism. And modern-day conservatism brought us to this day with Donald Trump. The conservative movement. Not the Republican Party, the conservative movement. The conservative movement has always had different factions. Always. There was never one faction that everybody unified behind. There were general principles and beliefs that people unified behind. There were libertarians, paleo-conservatives, neoconservatives, traditional conservatives, religious conservatives, fiscal conservatives, social conservatives. They all pulled together under Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan owed a lot of his progress, of his success, to, among others, William F. Buckley Jr. of National Review. They were close friends. And Buckley was a close advisor. And yet, I should tell you, in 1976, Buckley backed Ford against Reagan for a variety of reasons, none of which were philosophical. He was wrong about that, as we're all wrong about a lot of things. But the birth of the Barry Goldwater movement, which was the early rise of this new conservatism, this new conservative movement. Again, Buckley and his cohorts were very much involved in that. Crucially important for laying the foundation for Reagan, Reagan laying the foundation for Trump. This is understandable. This is a very important sequence of events. And yet some people in radio and TV who've never been involved really in the conservative movement have no idea what the hell they're talking about. In fact, some of them, in 2016 were not just backing other candidates other than Trump. They were trashing the hell out of Trump and said they could never back him. Now they carry the flag. Bill Buckley was a very brave man, a very principled man. I didn't know him much, but I knew of him. Had an enormous impact on me at the age of 13 and 14. There were people who came before me, people who came before Rush, people who came before Charlie, very, very important people who fought the good fight and fought it well. Buckley and Rush were very good friends. David Horowitz, who also went to college campuses, who also went to events where the audiences were highly hostile, who came out of the communist movement, the Black Panthers, built a tremendously important organization, tremendously important books, had a great amount of influence on my generation and the generation before me. Crucially important people who are not to be dismissed. Everything didn't begin today. But Buckley did something that the vast majority of modern-day MAGA, modern-day conservatives in and out of the media don't have the guts to do. They don't have what it takes. You see, Buckley did more than found National Review, crucially important magazine. He did more than that. Buckley did more than found the modern conservative movement, which led to so much, including eventually the election of Donald Trump. Indeed, Make America Great Again was Ronald Reagan's campaign slogan in 1985. Peace through strength was Reagan's foreign policy slogan when he ran for president the first time in 1976 and again in 1980. This is a good thing. Edmund Burke talks about it. How one generation is linked to the next. This didn't just happen, MAGA. And yet, Donald Trump is a historic, iconic, unique figure who's carried off things and been able to do things I don't think anybody else could do. But my focus isn't on that, because everybody knows how tremendous I think he is. My focus is on an attitude out of ignorance of some people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s who think that they have discovered the world, that almost nothing came before them. William F. Buckley Jr. was watching and seeing something that troubled him a great deal. A great deal. Buckley was a faithful Catholic, a traditional Catholic, a believing Catholic. But he saw something, was watching something, was reading something that began to appear in his own pages of National Review by columnists. And back then, radio was getting big under Rush. There wasn't a Fox News. There was the counterculture, the independent media platforms that were mostly based on magazines and columns and that sort of thing. The predecessor to podcasting and so forth. And he was very troubled by what he was seeing, very troubled by what he was hearing, because he knew his history. He knew what it could lead to. He knew that it would poison and destroy the conservative movement in the effort to create a workable, powerful conservative movement to counter the left, the New Deal, the 1960s radicals and rioters, the New Left. He understood that this poison within the conservative movement would destroy it and destroy any chance of success and defeating the Democrats on the left and defeating the Republican establishment. What did he see? In fact, it was so bad that he committed an entire edition of his magazine from cover to cover to address this issue. And then he went and he wrote a book about it. By the way, he created Firing Line, the first true debate program, where he too wanted to take on people who disagreed with him. And he did. Firing Line. He took on people who disagreed with him. It was a debate show of his values and beliefs versus other scholars, writers, producers. The first of its kind. Firing Line that went on for over 2 decades. Hugely successful. He invented that genre. What was it that he saw that compelled him to take action? The youth of today will be the leaders of tomorrow, and it's more critical now than ever that we train up the next generation to fearlessly defend conservative values. The Heritage Foundation's Young Leaders Program equips young conservatives with the principled foundation and policy knowledge needed to stand up in a world increasingly hostile to conservatives. The Young Leaders Program is more than an internship. Participants work right alongside Heritage professionals, and they learn valuable workplace skills. They attend weekly policy briefings from Heritage's top experts and have access to practical skill-building workshops. They visit historical sites in Washington and even unparalleled mentorship opportunities. If you or anyone in your life is looking to spend a semester in our nation's capital with the best and the brightest of the conservative movement, please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Go there today. Learn more about the Young Leaders Program. Applications for the spring semester close October 5th, so you have to hurry. Our nation's future depends on patriots like you, spreading the word to make sure the next generation is equipped. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.